Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Danganronpa. So, we're about to start the final class trial. It seems to me like, for the most part, there isn't as much of a mystery as I thought there might be. It seems like the headmaster, Kyoko's father, uh, really did create some kind of system that was to protect the children, the students, and that somehow involved erasing their memories and putting them in the school. I'm not sure if the whole mastermind and murder game was part of that plan. Um, but yeah, some of my thoughts certainly of them being clones, we've seen like no evidence for. And see, the one thing I would say more than anything about this story and why it set me down the path of thinking, well, maybe these characters are clones, or maybe they're alternate universes or different timelines, um, is the fact that these are animated characters. And so if you have a decent experience playing anime games or watching anime in general, or just reading manga, you know that those stories always go very sci-fi and very fantasy and go in crazy and wild ways. So I was already thinking on the path that yeah, maybe they're clones, maybe there's an alternate timeline. Every little thing that could have been dismissed as like, oh, that must be a red herring, like the photographs, for instance, they could have easily been dismissed, and the game wanted you to dismiss the first and second photograph and forget about them. But no, of course, if you have experience with anime, you would focus on that. As for the actual murder case, I'm still very much on the idea that Junko's body, who was the fashionista, was the body that was exploded. Um, and so Mukuro Ikisaba, the 16th student, seems to be um, seems to be either being forced or willingly working for Monokuma. But then there is also some evidence that maybe Kyoko or Yashihiro are um, part of the ultimate despair group, which they are now calling a group. The problem here is that you really don't want anybody to be the bad guy in this. But I guess if you're gonna rank it, you definitely don't want Chihiro. Junko, we didn't even know, so it'd be fine if she was the bad guy, but she would have to be a mastermind who was dead almost at the very beginning of the game. Celeste was fine as a bad guy, but you kind of do want to see her come back. Sakura, I do want to see her as a personality come back. I'd like to see her redrawn. Toko and Genocide Jill are annoying characters, but it would be just far too on the nose for her to show up as a bad guy. Aoi as the bad guy would be a good twist, probably more than you can expect from this story. Uh, but you also don't want her as a bad guy, depending on how the sequel of the game goes. You definitely don't want Kyoko. Sayaka was already shown to be a bad guy, so there would be kind of no point in revealing that she actually faked her death at the beginning of the game and Leon was killed for no reason. Yashihiro could be a bad guy and I really wouldn't care. Hifumi was revealed to be a bad guy and I wouldn't want to see him come back and be a bigger bad guy. Leon was revealed to be a bad guy and that kind of sucks because we didn't get to know him very well. Mondo was revealed to be a bad guy and like that's not a big surprise, so I wouldn't want to see him come back. Byakuya being revealed as a bad guy is pretty obvious. Taka being a bad guy. Um, was Taka one that was killed? Yeah, Taka coming back and being a bad guy would be a little weird, but I mean, he went crazy. If anything, that's his entire story arc of what little there was that the ultimate moral compass broke down and went into insanity. And then the character you're playing as, Makoto being a bad guy, I mean, sure, whatever. I mean, that'd be fine, but it would kind of suck too because that would mean you'd have to be playing as a different student with the rest of the students in the sequel, which would be fine, actually, because Makoto is probably the least interesting of the 16 studios students.
For anything that has a start, there has to be an end.
I'm still not certain that we're actually going to be done with the story by the time this trial's done. Almost certainly not. For anything,
And
yeah.
if the end comes, then that means it's time for a fresh start.
And see, that's my thinking, is that maybe this is just a case where they're all clones and they do one last class trial, and in previous iterations the clones have failed and all been killed, and maybe this is a case where they need to somehow clone or breed the perfect versions of them, and that's why they're ultimates maybe in the first place, is because they've been bred through cloning to be the perfect versions of themselves. That's a weird way of thinking, certainly.
There is no night that doesn't have a dawn.
See, Monokuma is basically speaking positively.
Although that dawn is totally pitch black,
Yeah.
there is no storm that won't eventually end. Of course, then that leads to drought. But as I said, every end is the promise of a new beginning.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is just straight up a new game plus
Which is why
type
I'm sure
experience.
we'll get to meet again,
That-
because the end is only the beginning.
Yeah, they're saying the end is only the beginning. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a accelerated experience where we go through all the events of the previous game again. That would be very much in line with the Nonary games,
Anyway, let's
and
get
that's
started.
pretty much in line with any visual novel with any kind of branching paths.
The beginning of the end of the class trial. Everyone gather once again at you know where.
We had no free time in this instance, so we'll see how many skill points we have, but I think we're still at 20. It's about to begin again. The class trial is going to start. The final class trial. The last time all of our lives will be on the line. The last time hope and despair are on the line. I don't have a choice. I have to do this. Okay then. This is the end. See, it still puts you here. And you have to walk. Well, that could have been a cutscene. I guess I'm the first one this time. Well, maybe not, because everybody else, except for Kyoko, seems like they saw the picture of the rest of the group, and they saw that Makoto wasn't in the picture and were avoiding him, or they saw something else that caused them to avoid him. So this may very well be a case where they've all just decided to betray Makoto completely, and but that would be kind of redundant, because they kind of all betrayed Makoto when they voted him the blackened in the previous class trial.
Makoto,
You're early, Makoto.
listen.
Does that mean you feel prepared? Yeah, for now at least. But where's everyone else? Why aren't they here yet?
However,
Don't worry, I'm sure they'll be here soon. And just like she said... ... Byakuya. ... Byakuya? Question mark. They arrived one after another, but they were all in the same state of shock. Here you have Aoi looking at you very angrily. Hina? Yoshihiro? Hiro? Silence. And it wasn't any normal silence. It was the deafening silence of fear and suspicion. It was like the first class trial.
you called for me and so I appear.
Ah, I'm late. ...
I'm on fire.
Ah, strong silent master, so wonderful, so cool, so hot, my loins are ablaze. Now listen, everything will be fine if you leave it to me. Watch with my sharp scissors in hand. I'll stab and gouge and shiv the master of evil. But I thought you couldn't kill anyone but adorable little boys. If it's what master wants, it can be a boy, girl, or anything in between. I can handle it. And then she sneezes and turns back to Toko. And then we'll probably see Toko doesn't want to talk to me either. I feel like we're going to see Mukuro Ikasabi show up here, though. I think she's just gonna walk through and surprise them all. Where am I? Of course, there's really no reason for this. No human language can describe the disappointment I'm feeling right now. Pew, is everyone here? Oh, and wearing our gloomy Gus faces, I see. Okay then, well, let's begin. The final class trial is going to be slattered in pitch black despair. Climaxium sorrow.
That's fine.
You're right, this is the final class trial. And this time it'll be fair. What do you mean this time? Stop with all the slander. I'm a bear in good standing, you know. If there was a Mr. Fair Guy Universe contest, I'd take home the tiara every year. I'm gonna win this game super fair and square. And I'll make sure everyone watching at home knows that despair is mightier than day hope. Interesting that that's mistyped there. We were speculating that perhaps the person in charge of Monokuma had hurt their hand and couldn't type correctly, and that's why we're seeing some garbage come out of the robot's mouth. That might be the case.
Stop talking.
Enough of your tedious drivel. Begin the trial already. Sure, let's begin the trial already. I'll be waiting for you down below. And don't try and run away. Laughing as loud as ever, Monokuma disappeared. Whatever.
In the name of my family.
This will be over in no time. With inexplicable confidence, Byakuya was the first into the elevator. One by one, the others followed. ... Well, see, at this rate, it just feels like Byakuya, Aoi, and Yashahiro are just going to vote and call for a vote immediately and outnumber Kyoko and Makoto. Like, particularly if they get Toko on their side. Nobody made eye contact, nobody said a word, they just disappeared into the elevator. They're all acting odd. Like they're paranoid, suspicious of each other. But you know why that is, don't you? Yeah, I think so. Well, you can tell us all about it soon. At the class trial. You're right, I'm ready. So Kyoko didn't see the picture, so she's not suspicious. Ready to win, right? Of course. I'm glad to hear you say that. What would have been nice here is if we could have asked Kyoko what was at the very end of the DVD, because Monokuma stopped it from playing, because obviously she had seen the end of the DVD. And then Kyoko was aboard the elevator. This would be our first opportunity to click here, but it would also be fairly silly to find a Monokuma token in this room, since we very possibly won't ever have an opportunity to use it. Step after step toward the gaping maw. I don't know what that last sentence was. I started to make my way toward the opening. I'd resolved this would be the last time. I repeated to myself that there was no fear, no mystery left. I pushed the anxiety down, calmed my trembling body, and finally on steady legs, I passed the threshold and stood in the elevator. So we really haven't lost anybody in a while, so this picture is just kind of the same as the last case. Without warning, it began to descend, deeper and deeper, 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 deeper still, deeper, 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 deeper it fell. Still no real explanation as to why this elevator is so long. I closed my eyes and sight fell away. All sound too disappeared. Alone in the universe, I waited for the elevator doors to open for the last time. What could have been seconds or centuries later, I felt the gentle vibration of the elevator come to an end. I slowly opened my eyes. Well, this is a very different decoration with a lot of TVs all over the place, and looks like maybe vents to pour in gas, maybe elevators. This is the final site. What do you think? It's just a perfect background for deciding a person's fate. It's the long-awaited last stage. It's always exciting final boss battle. The always exciting final boss battle. Phew, and I'm gonna sit in on this one. I'll just sit right here in the vacant 16th seat. Well then, let's begin. Alright. Alright, well, we gotta save, but we also don't have a lot of places to save. So let's go over and overwrite that. Alright. So truth bullets time, we have 17. We could easily mess this up. Regulations haven't changed or anything else hasn't changed. We still are at 16 SP. I'm surprised we're even that low. See, I think there's like an achievement to get up to 20 SP, which that seems insane that you'd be able to have gotten up to that point. And also it seems fairly insane that there's just so many skills we haven't unlocked. Like there must, it really feels like there's something I'm simply wasn't doing right to unlock skills. Maybe it's getting through like an entire trial perfectly unlocks a skill, or getting through an entire section perfectly, but I must have gotten through at least one section perfectly at the very beginning. So yeah, there's a lot of gaps there. Let's just leave everything where it is. And again, he says they're going to be sitting. He's standing on the jumping beams instead of sitting back in judgment.
So listen up.
All right, we get a special rule.
If you can figure out Mukuro's killer and go on to solve the mystery of this school.
Interesting. Well, nobody killed Mukuro as far as I know.
You guys win!
Ah, and that might be the exact point, is that this rule doesn't matter because Mukuro's still alive, which means the twist here is we may reveal that nobody killed Mukuro, and thus the class trials continue anyways.
But if you can't, then I win! And of course, waiting for the loser is the super exciting, super heart-pounding punishment!
And they set Monokuma up higher. This really goes to show how small Monokuma is compared to everyone else, where I would have thought he was much larger.
Are you saying that if you lose, you'll execute yourself?
Yep, sure will.
Now, in all fairness, this might be Monokuma executes his own body.
And that's final? No loopholes? No wiggling out of it later?
Of course not. Bears never go back on their word.
Yeah, Monokuma may destroy his robot body without Mukuro or whoever's controlling Monokuma killing themselves.
Never mind all that. I just have one question for you.
It's been a while since we've heard Yashihiro talk, so he sounds different. I don't know if there's any truth to that.
Oh, you're taking this serious, huh? Are you feeling okay?
Is the mastermind only one person?
See, that is a good question to ask, but who says Monokuma was going to answer any questions?
Don't bother. I already know the answer.
See, yeah, he sounds so different now, and if we had a Yashihiro throughout the entire game who was a little bit smarter and a little bit willing to speak up like this, I would have liked him better.
You're all the mastermind, aren't you? You're all out to get me.
Yeah.
I'm right, aren't I? I knew it.
So he just suspects everyone. If we were all the masterminds out to get him, then why didn't we get him? Places to check Headmaster's E-Handbook. Group photo.
You guys have all been working together, haven't you?
So we're just gonna have to address this.
Hey, you stole my line.
She was gonna.
I'm sure of it.
She's gonna say the same
I
thing.
have evidence of my own.
There's just like nothing to shoot you.
I too have evidence to present. Evidence that proves everyone other than me has been working together.
So did he show a picture of everybody except for themselves?
Three of us each have that kind of evidence.
No, it's wrong.
Yeah, so Monokuma must have shown different pictures to different people, and
It's not just you three. I have evidence too.
What? You too?
This
The
is all
evidence you're
voiced.
referring to is this group photo, right?
And see, this is another case where it seems like Makoto just either can show physical evidences, but can also project ideas and things non-physical things that he saw to the group. And it's not really explained well.
Well, yeah.
So, is this all the same photo, or is there a different photo for each one?
Huh? Wait, but mine's different.
This would be crazy if it turns out Monokuma did just make all these photos.
With the picture you have, I'm in it.
See, this is really just making an argument for alternate universes.
But that can't be right. Because in my picture,
So how many times did they edit this photo?
see? I'm the only one not in it.
Oh, so they've made just kind of custom photos in general. Once again, like, I'm sure they kind of had some fun drawing this, but that is weird. Let's take a moment and look here. In this, we have Mukuro Ikisaba in her school uniform, not in a athletic uniform. So apparently she wasn't in the same class as everyone. They are also seemingly having a kind of co-ed race, which implies a non-athletic thing. You can also see Makoto is running in red shoes, but everybody else has white shoes except for Kyoko, who has purple or black shoes, and Yashihiro, who has wooden sandals. Once again, though, we have to the left the fashionista Junko turned around so you can't see her face. And kind of more awkwardly than that, we have Chihiro, who was the cross-dresser, in the girls' bottoms, which undoubtedly would show a bulge, unless he's tucking his package under, or he is like post-opera transitioning, which I don't think that was the argument at all. Toko is in the far background, so you can't see much of her either. Is there anything else to take from this? Yeah, I feel like a Japanese school in particular, if they were having a race, in general, would be alright with some people not wearing the athletic outfits. But if they were all supposed to be in athletics class, then I feel like the school would have forced Mukuro Ikisaba to be in the athletic outfit. And so is there something being hidden as far as why she's in the regular school outfit? Of course, you have Celeste in the far background also in her Gothic Lolita stuff, which the schools would never put up with that. Sakura is probably lapping people with speed. And you can see her hip width and her stomach width there being drawn very out of proportion. Like she has a very tiny waist. If there's anything you're supposed to take from this, I kind of feel like it is supposed to be that they've once again put Mukuro Ikisaba on one side of the picture and Junko on the other side of the picture. But in this case, it seems fairly obvious that Mukuro Ikisaba is at least 2 or 3 feet more forward to the camera, so she should be at least a few inches shorter than Junko. And yet Junko looks like she is very tall and compared to Chihiro, but the exact same height as Mukuro Ikisaba, which that's probably just a mistake in perspective. There's nothing in the shadows that I see. Some of these shirts that they're wearing are not the right shirts either, because the official school shirts have blue bands around the collars and the wristbands, and in this case Hifumi is wearing an official school shirt and not his crazy tie. But Byakuya just has a white t-shirt on, and so does Mondo, and so does Yashihiro. But they don't have the blue bands around the edge, and these are the kind of small mistakes that you probably should keep an eye out for if this was a more complicated puzzle, but it really isn't. Alright. I figured as much, in which case...
Hero, you have a picture too, right? Let's see it.
Moving on.
Okay, but be careful with it. It's pretty important evidence.
So, obviously Makoto was able to get a whole photo book of photos between these students, but these also can't be students that were living out their life at Hope's Peak for the rest of their lives. I don't think. I just don't think they would be super happy and running around the school, and there would be sun outside if the tragedy or apocalypse or whatever happened outside had already happened, and they were just living their normal high school lives. Unless, of course, there is just something happening to the world where Hope's Peak and the students of Hope's Peak being happy and hopeful created or saved the world for a time, and then something terrible happened, and then that caused the apocalypse. Almost like the emotions of the school students themselves causes either the apocalypse to happen or to not happen. This one too, it's just like I thought. Okay, here we can see Toko in the back left with extremely long tongue, sitting behind Byakuya. And then Mondo is sleeping in class, and Ikuba, forgot her name. The ultimate soldier is in the picture, and Sayaka is here eating donuts. And in this one we can see that once again Chihiro is taking a picture with his camera, but either they're using a mirror or he's taking his picture of someone else taking a picture, which is weird. Here we can see Makoto is in here, and this is pretty much the exact same pose that we saw before. So Celeste is still in her Gothic Lolita outfit. The fashionista is turned around again. There is something slightly different in this picture in that Kyoko's hair is white and not pink or silver. Maybe it's a little silverish. You can see Leon is sticking his head in, but in this case Leon looks like he is in his outfit from the game, not so much in the outfit of the school. Is there anybody else that's halfway out of uniform? Hifumi's got his crazy tie again. Well, Sayaka and Chihiro and Kyoko all have blue dresses, blue skirts, and so is true for Junko. But then Toko has a brown skirt, and Aoi has a brown skirt. We can't see Sakura's skirt. So once again, they're kind of out of connection. You might even make an argument, and I wouldn't be 100% certain on this, that Sayaka's knee-high socks may be different, a slightly different color and a slightly different height than Aoi's knee-high socks. They're eating donuts. I feel like there might very well have been a Dunkin' Donuts or a donut shop tie-in in Japan with this game. Is there anything else to take from this, though? I don't think so.
So the secret in these pictures has been revealed.
Okay.
Secret or whatever, I don't care. You guys are all in on this together. That's why I'm the only one missing.
But you're in my picture. You're the ones trying to trick me.
So the whole purpose behind these photos was to get us questioning and fighting with each other.
I wouldn't be surprised if Monokuma had just handed a photo to Kyoko at this point too.
The mastermind trap to make us each think everyone else was working against us.
But the problem here is this entire court case just going to boil down to proving that Mukuro Ikasaba is the mastermind alone? Or do we have to point somebody else out as the mastermind?
Huh? I laid a trap?
It's funny, Monokuma responds to mastermind,
A trap? How rude!
but
What
I
grounds
feel
do
like
you
there's a
have for such
difference between
outrageous
Monokuma and the
accusations?
mastermind, but maybe he doesn't want people to realize that. Proof I need to reveal Monokuma's trap. Each photo has a certain something in common. There's a connection regarding what person isn't shown in the group photos. Well, it wasn't that Hitomi was taking a picture. That person is the one who got the photo. Toko. Monokuma. It's not Toko.
In each case, the only one not in the picture is the person who received it. So, in the picture I got, I'm the only one missing.
See, in this picture also, you can see Mukuro is wearing the brown skirt. It's weird that they would have two different color skirts. But I guess anime game, they probably would do this. And you can see Leon is in his crazy outfit in this picture also.
In the picture Hina got, she's the only one missing.
No one here is taking a photo as far as I can tell. Definitely not Hifumi.
And in the picture Hiro got, he's the only one missing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what skirt Mukuro is wearing here.
As long as we're talking about it, I suppose I should show you my photo as well.
Okay. So we get one more picture. Interesting, and it just
In other
flashes.
words, Monokuma gave each of us a group photo.
And see, I didn't
in
even
which
have
that
time,
person
so can
wasn't.
I look at that photo or pause the game? No. Unfortunately. There was like no button press to look at that photo. So we didn't get time to see if Junko's face was visible, but I assume it wasn't. And that was the swimsuit photo that probably people would want to have seen even more.
When we each saw our picture, we just assumed everyone else was the enemy?
Figured it out, huh?
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy to assume that a group of 16 people would always have group photos together
Yeah.
without at least
I
one
thought that
person
must be
missing.
it.
It's kind of
How
how
is that a hint?
photos happen. ... Now we go silent. But you know, there might be more to this than just Monokuma trying to confuse us. There's something else that bothers me about everyone's pictures. What is it? What's digging at me?
Listen, can I see everyone's group photo one more time?
See, and this is crazy because either this is a game for adults who like murder mysteries, which it almost certainly isn't, at which point you would have realized Junko's face wasn't shown in any of them, and you would have been suspecting Junko as being involved up until this, for a while now. I've been suspecting it for probably about 10 hours now. And honestly, I had a little suspicion of her since she died so early, because that's just not how you would write a character in any game, to just be killed off. You wouldn't animate her so much. She would have been a bland, boring, nobody character if she was going to just die off real quickly and never play another role, visually speaking. So if it's not a game for older people, then you have to just kind of assume it's once again a game for edgy teens. And honestly, at this point, it kind of feels like it's a game for edgy teens who aren't even that smart, because it's spoon feeding you every solution, which then makes, if there is a huge twist ending, feel very out of place if that's what happens.
It's not directly connected to what we're talking about, but I'd like to double check something.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah,
don't mind.
And I don't know how they hand these photos over, because either they're throwing them or they're walking around them and walking back to a spot. I'm sure there's something unusual about these group photos. What is it? I need to compare each of them one more time. See, this would be funny if there was a situation here where you had to actually highlight the images. Co-ed swimming in the pool, which is a lap pool with lanes, seems weird. And then you have Sakura in the background punching a fish out of the pool like there would be a giant fish. Even if that's a big inflatable fish, that seems kind of silly that that'd be allowed in a school pool. I think they get a proportions a little bit better as far as her waist there. So it seems like what it was is it was a big inflatable fish that Hifumi was sitting on top of, and she swam up and punched it. We can see Yashahiro in the back. Mondo's in a Speedo, and Taka's swimming. And then we see the back of Leon, so we don't see his face, but he's splashing Junko's face again. So it's like, it seems very much like Monokuma intentionally collected photos that would hide Junko's face, which I think he did. Here we can see Aoi acting as the swim guard, the lifeguard, which for somebody who likes swimming, that's probably not where she would want to be. Chihiro's in the water. Mukuro Ikisaba's in the water. Sayaka is front and foremost. These are school uniforms, but they are missing the names that are usually written on the front of school uniforms. That might only be done in elementary school, I'm not sure. But they are very standard blue. Kyoko still has her gloves, so if this was an alternate universe, not everything changed. Makoto's in the background, and Toko and Celeste are in the background. They're so far in the background, though, you can't really see their faces either, but they are distinguishable, to say the least. This is another case where I don't know why they would have let Toko, if this was a swim class, not to wear a swimsuit, or Celeste not wear a swimsuit. Even in Western schools, if there is a class, usually they wouldn't be co-ed in swimming anyways, but if there's a class, they usually make the students wear the outfit anyways and just go through the motions. Often you'll see in anime girls say they're on their period, and they'll be sitting on the side of the pool instead of swimming, but they'll still make them wear the school outfit. And sometimes that's just because they don't want to swim, and sometimes because it's true. Although I don't know if there's a specific reason why you wouldn't be able to swim with a tampon in the period, but that's neither here than there, because I don't think they're going to get into that. It's hardly like there's sharks in the pool. Moving forward. Hina's picture. We've already been over this one, so we can just press forward. This does definitely feel like a point where you could really just drop the ball and fail miserably if you don't realize that Junko's face is not visible in any of them. Which, like, I'm still not 100% sure what that reveals, other than maybe her face looks exactly like Mukuro Ikisaba's face and they're twins, except for the hair is totally different. That might be it. Maybe they're identical twins. Identical twins that grew up with the same waist, height, and bust size, which is hard to believe, but somewhat believable. There's something strange about all of them. I still can't quite pin down something. Update. Group photo's been updated to the truth bullet section of your handbook.
Can you just forget about the photo already? Ugh. Trying to trick me with such an obviously fake photo. I'm still pissed about that.
Yeah, the game desperately wanted you to think the photos were fake.
And on top of that, they went to all that trouble to make it look like we were wearing matching uniforms.
Somewhat matching uniforms.
So you think they're fake?
No. I
assure you, they're quite real.
That's a different voice actor or way of delivery for Monokuma.
What are you talking about? There's no way.
Frankly, they all sound a little different, but maybe that's just because it's been long enough since the last time I heard them talk that I've just forgotten what they sound like.
Yeah, I don't remember
Either
ever
that, or
taking
you
a
have to make
picture like that.
the crazy assumption that they lost access to their voice actors between case 5 and case 6 and had to hire different voice actors.
So it's gotta be a fake. I'm sure of it.
If this game was sold episodically, that might make sense, but I don't know if a visual novel's long enough to be sold episodically, even in Japan.
But you know, can we really be so sure?
Huh?
Don't get me wrong. I don't remember taking this picture either. But is that really enough to be absolutely positive they're fake?
What do you mean?
Toko's been silent. Did Toko get a photo? Did we look at Toko's photo? I think we did. The reason I don't remember the pictures isn't necessary because it's fake. There might be some other reason, some terrible reason. An unbelievably but entirely horrifying reason. And so we're gonna do a Hangman's Gambit. It's amnesia, we think? Yeah. So, is that E S A?
Now I understand.
But if you didn't know
Let's
the
say
word
that somehow
amnesia,
we
which
all
has
lost
only
our
been said
memories.
like once
That could explain it,
before, oh, you didn't know how to spell amnesia, that would be a great place to just mess up. This would be crazy if I take no damage whatsoever in this trial, but maybe this last trial will be fairly easy. Depends if we run into a rhythm game or not.
Oh, I get it. So we all just lost our memories at the same time and forgot about the photo. Makes sense. As if. You expect me to believe such an unbelievable occult type story?
Yeah. We all lost our memories? That's just crazy.
Is it? I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out none of them are actually even ultimate students, and that the idea of them being ultimate students was implanted into them. Maybe Leon was just a very lucky baseball player or a decent baseball player. None of the other students have really shown that they needed their abilities to accomplish much of anything. So only natural they wouldn't believe it, but no matter how much they refuse, if that's the absolute truth, they have no choice. We can't move forward until they accept it. And there's another way to prove it besides those pictures. Are we going to go with Kyoko's account, or are we going to go with Toko? The interview detail... We have like 5 bullets here. Is it ever going to get up to 6?
You're saying we all got spontaneous amnesia? Since when did this turn into some kind of sci-fi fantasy?
Yeah, I think it's the interview DVD.
My memory.
There's an achievement for shooting enough of these.
I remember everything that's happened.
So the idea that
Oops.
we all lost our memories.
It's totally stupid. Obviously.
Okay. So we go around, but did I take any damage because of that?
Since when did this turn into some kind of sci-fi fantasy?
I think the game always was a sci-fi
My memory.
fantasy.
Ever since I got to this school, I remember everything that's...
No, that's wrong.
Now would be a great time to also ask Kyoko about what was
Those
at the end of
photos
the
aren't only
DVD.
things that point to the possibility of memory loss. This DVD does the same thing.
I guess he has the DVD, but he has no DVD player, so can anyone watch it?
You're not gonna show us something indecent, are you?
This is not as terribly inappropriate as some of the other things Toko said, but it's still kind of in line with that.
No, it's nothing like that. It's a video of all of us being interviewed by the Hopes Peak Academy headmaster.
When you say all of us, you mean...
I mean all of us, including you.
Did it include Mukuro Ikisaba?
You lie! I never did any kind of interview.
No, it's not a lie. Just watch the DVD and you'll see for yourself. The headmaster did, in fact, interview you.
So did they just watch the DVD on the TVs?
What are you saying?
I didn't imagine you would remember.
It's not about whether or not I remember. You expect me to believe all this? That I lost my memory somehow?
Well, we don't have any way to refute it, so we have no choice but to accept it as reality.
What's weird is you would think you would notice if you had lost some time, regardless, but not really. I mean, if they had lived years and years at the school, and then they were de-aged somehow, and then woke back up at the school again for forgetting all of that. Well, it doesn't have to be years and years. It could have been just a couple of weeks.
How can you say that? We're talking about living, breathing amnesia here.
Does amnesia breathe?
To
No.
be honest, I have something else on my mind right now.
Okay.
Something else?
So that's that question.
You said the DVD contains recordings of us being interviewed by the headmaster, right? What were the interviews about?
The headmaster sat each of us down, one at a time, and asked us the same question. He asked us if we could accept the idea of spending the rest of our lives in his school.
And they all said yes, which should have been the end of the story.
What kind of question is that?
It is a weird question, certainly, because what's the point of spending the rest of your life learning in a school if you're never going to do anything with that knowledge? It's fine if you like learning, but do you need to be in a school to continue your life and learn throughout the rest of your life? Not really.
And how did we answer?
We'd say no, obviously.
If anything, maybe these are the rejected parts of the personalities of the students, and the good parts of the students are the parts that are away in some other reality. This might be like a virtual reality mental experiment to remove regret, and it might be very figurative and allegorical.
Actually, we all said we could. Even me. I heard myself say yes. I could spend the rest of my life at this school.
It's not a terrible school, frankly. You've got nothing better going on. Living the rest of your life with every care and desire being addressed is not terrible. Maybe not every desire, but it's better than starving in the streets or struggling in a Japanese work environment. Even if you did make it to higher management in the Japanese employment system or government, you're still probably going to work yourself to death quite a bit.
Why? Why would you say yes to something like that?
I don't know. I don't remember a thing.
The same goes for everyone else. Nobody remembers. You don't remember choosing to live here forever, or even talking to the headmaster about it at all.
It doesn't matter if I remember or not.
Is that a hint? Maybe Yashiro does remember.
Even if I bought the whole amnesia thing, the idea that I would want to live here forever? That's just insane! How can I believe that?
I wonder if the killing game is some extreme way of breaking some kind of lock on the door so that they can escape.
Insane or not, we
I mean,
can't
that would
move
kind of
forward
make
until we
sense, is
accept
that the only way they can escape living here for their entire lives is to perhaps create something like the killing games and maybe convince the world outside to come open the door or do something else. Maybe the entire school is like barred from the outside.
You sure are, 'cause it's all true.
I know it sounds absurd, but if it's the truth, there's nothing we can do about it.
Indeed.
We're moving
We only
fairly
have
slowly
one path
here.
in front of us.
Then, we really...
Yep,
Although Kyoko seemed to lose more of her memory than anyone else.
Making my head hurt.
And this isn't like some normal kind of memory loss. You stole those specific memories from us, didn't you?
Did the mastermind do it, or did someone else do it?
Oopsie. You figured that part out too, huh?
Well, I guess they're just gonna tell you straight out, yes.
Of course. There's no way we would all just happen to get amnesia at the same time.
How could someone just steal our memories?
How?
Probably that big air purifier device in the lab.
Come. That hardly matters right now.
He's not even gonna bother to explain
If I
it.
said it was hypnotism, would you believe me? Or we opened up your skulls and messed with your brains?
Yeah, they're not gonna bother to explain it. Might explain the crack in the skull of the headmaster, though.
Would you really believe anything I said? How it happened doesn't matter right now.
What matters is figuring out what memories you took from us. That's what you're trying to say, right?
I knew I could count on you.
Is it really fair to say despair is stronger than hope if you can just erase every hopeful and happy memory from somebody's mind, potentially, and leave them with only negative memories? I mean, is that a fair win in Monokuma's book? I don't think so. I feel like the argument is fairly obvious here that had they had their memories intact, none of these people would have ever killed each other in the first place. Even with Sakura being a spy, then Sakura would have still never killed anyone else.
The interview with the headmaster, taking that group photo, those can't be the only memories we lost. There must have been a purpose to it all. A reason for taking away our memories.
Of course there was a purpose. It all has to do with the original motive.
Which we're still not 100% certain on it. The original motive.
The motive you came up with to try and get us to all kill each other?
The original motive was the DVDs.
That has something to do with the memories you stole from us?
But we only saw Sakya's DVD and Makoto's DVD. We never got to see anybody else's DVD. Which, in any kind of murder mystery story, there are always bits of evidence that you would like to see more of. And particularly in interactive video games, you would kind of like to be able to go down those routes, even if they end up being dead ends. It would have been very nice in Chapter 1 to have gone to every single person's room and watched the DVD of everyone. But remember also, the DVD ended where it said, when we looked at the DVD at the very beginning of the game, and it's very, very easy to have forgotten this, it said you wouldn't get to see the end of that DVD until you'd gotten the true ending or gotten a full relationship with Sayaka or something.
It sure does.
So that there is at least that small reason to maybe go back and play that chapter later.
But that part's still a secret.
And Monokuma theaters have stopped being a thing, and they didn't make any sense. Like, they still don't make any sense.
Anyway, I'm sure it's not easy, but let's all focus on the class trial for the murder of Mukuro Ikusaba.
See, he just doesn't have to answer anything because he's got them all trapped in this other trick.
Okay, so you want us to figure out who killed her before we do anything else.
So until we do that, well, either way, we have to explain every last remaining mystery. So the one who killed Mukuro, the true mastermind, that's who we need to expose. This would be too early to make an accusation, so we're gonna have to do another bullet time argument. See, Mukuro Ikusaba's profile is probably the right
So
item.
who did it? Who killed her?
Nobody.
Whoever did it is the same one who's behind everything. That much I'm sure of.
Am I supposed to suck in something?
Is the mastermind really here in the school?
Of course! They have to be here somewhere.
What makes you so sure?
Well, we know she's in the Monokuma control room.
What does make me so sure?
Exactly. You're just making stuff up. There's no way the mastermind is here. The mastermind is probably a million miles away. masterminds always lurk off in the background, right?
I'm positive they're somewhere in the school. Otherwise, there's no way they could have controlled that machine.
So who did it? Who killed her?
And that
Whoever did it
used
is the
all of
same
my
one who's behind
focus to jump
That much I'm
forward just a
sure.
little bit.
But when you think about it, is the mastermind really here in the school?
Of course! They have to be here somewhere.
What makes you so sure?
Darn it. Lost 10 seconds.
What does make me so sure?
Exactly. You're just making stuff up. There's no way the mastermind is here.
I feel like I have to lead early
No, it's wrong.
to hit that one.
There's no
I like the
question
music
the mastermind is
for that
somewhere
scene.
within the school.
It does stand out as unique. It probably gets used slightly less than it should be, though, and it probably is too different from other songs, which are fairly the same. Whereas, like, this music that's playing is very redundant, and we've heard it a lot.
How do you know? Did you find some evidence or something?
In the back of the data center, I found a panel that controls Monokuma. The mastermind must have been using that to control him all this time.
There's no guarantee that there aren't two control centers or a remote control.
So there can't be any doubt. The mastermind has been inside the school all along.
There can't be any doubt.
Well, also, didn't Monokuma basically say that?
In which case, there also can be no doubt that the mastermind is one of us.
What? Why?
Recall what Makoto told us Monokuma said to him earlier.
See, now, I feel like the way this is going to play out is we're going to end up accusing Monokuma of killing Mukuro Ikisaba, and then that's going to be twisted around to be the right answer, even though I'm fairly certain Mukuro Ikisaba is still alive. Otherwise, we're going to have to find and accuse someone else. I'm sure I told you this already, but the killing game began when 16 participants, all of them high school students. In this flashback, which is about the 7th time we've seen this, they skipped one line of dialogue. They should have done that for every time. The killing game began with 16 participants, all of them high school students, and the only people to take a single step in Hope's Peak since the killing game began are those 16 students.
So if the mastermind is in the school, we have to assume it can only be that 16th student.
Well, there is a possibility that someone is tied down to a chair in the Monokuma room and they haven't taken a single step. And then that person was pulled down into the hatch by some mechanism and then popped back up.
But how'd they manage to survive all of this?
So we're the only ones here? It's not me! I'm not the mastermind!
We're fairly certain that's true.
Well, it's not me.
We're fairly certain that's not true, but there's a good chance that would be an interesting twist.
Makoto!
Might be Makoto.
What? Why me?
Cuz! It's super weird how you're the only one who survived being executed.
Oh, I get it! The only way he could have survived is if he was actually the mastermind himself, right?
Aw, nuts! You got me!
Wait! What are you trying to say?
So, yeah, Makoto is going to get executed again.
Everyone, calm down. There's no reason to panic. The mastermind's true identity will become clear soon enough. Just as soon as we find out who killed Mukuro.
Sounds like Kyoko still thinks Mukuro is
That's a
dead,
good point.
which definitely makes it feel like I'm 5 or 6 steps ahead of everyone else. I did read, I believe, all of the Sherlock Holmes books at one point in my youth, and that certainly is a great foundation for deductive reasoning and murder mystery and just writing in general. But I'm sure there's plenty of people who've read a lot more murder mysteries and seen a lot more murder mysteries than me.
Rather than wasting time bickering, we should put our minds to work solving this mystery.
Yeah, well, how much time have we already spent talking about the murder?
He's right. What more is there to talk about?
If you want something to talk about, I think there might be one thing. We haven't fully established what Mukuro's fatal injury was.
Okay.
But I thought we figured that out. She died when she got hit in the back of the head.
No, that isn't actually what killed her. It was something entirely different. Wouldn't you agree, Makoto?
Well, as the player, I would. Let's see the other ones.
I got it.
It's what they're gonna leave it down to.
Covering her body. That's what really killed her.
Hey, now hold on a second. You did read the Monokuma file, right?
Body was covered with other wounds, but these were at least several days
You
old.
made it pretty clear. Those wounds were made at least a few days ago.
Which they're not even willing to establish a timeline, because if they said how many days ago, that would establish the timeline as far as how long they've been in the school, which we kind of know how long they've been in the school anyways, because it's always been day, night, day, night. It's not like they took days off or that they mentioned that they took days or weekends off, so we kind of know that it's probably been somewhere around 12 days. Less than a month, I would say, since the beginning of the story.
So they can't possibly be what killed her.
Unless there's big breaks between the chapters, but even in between the chapters, it seems like it always takes place the next day.
Consider this. What if the murder itself took place at least a few days ago?
What?
What if, when we discovered her body, she'd already been dead for several days?
And they have the morgue so that you could preserve her body so it wouldn't, like, decompose.
If that's true, then naturally the wounds that killed her would appear to be however many days old.
That doesn't make any sense. Because she had all those wounds before she ever came here.
Huh? How do you know that?
Isn't it obvious? She was the ultimate soldier, right? So that means
You're wrong.
she denied me before I could even say anything.
Oh, is Toko gonna develop a crush on Kyoko now?
Come on. I mean, you think I'm...
This is crazy how Toko is just taking over the place of Hifumi being the speed bump to conversations.
I'm not weird, okay? At least listen to what I have to say before you deny me.
I feel like that's a localization thing, where she might be denying that she might be a lesbian. If you're so sure we're gonna deny you, why bother saying it in the first place? So are we gonna get a rhythm mini game here? Maybe. Right. The profile's what we're looking for. They're gonna throw multiple bullets. So it feels like there could be
Mukuro was the ultimate soldier.
a...
She must have been in 100 different battles. So
Maybe there is a New Game Plus where we have more bullets.
obviously, she got all those wounds in battle.
Oops.
Are you finished?
Seriously, just missed twice.
Deny me this time. You made me go all cutesy.
Don't worry, there wasn't anything cute about it.
No, the wounds didn't come from the battlefield. One look hit was written on her. One look at what was written about her. It said should be clear.
Mukuro was the ultimate soldier.
So we can try
100 different battles.
to
So,
speed things
think
up. But
about it.
do I even really need to speed up? No. I should have been slowing things down this whole time. Oh man. So no wonder this game has been so hard. I was supposed to be using the slowdown feature. I thought that was a speed up feature. There must be a speed up feature and a slowdown feature somewhere. Let's see. Controls. I would have had to hit start while we were doing the gun section. Yeah, next time I do a gun section, I need to hit start and look at the controls again. And I know the game tutorialized me on this. They just have such long points in which conversation happens that I'd forgotten almost immediately that that's what that button did. I've just been using it to speed up. And that's crazy that it seems like it felt like it was working to both speed up and slow down things.
The file we found in the headmaster's room said as much. Despite the time she spent in battle after battle as a member of Fenrir, when she entered this school, she hadn't sustained a single injury.
Well, the fact that she hasn't sustained a single injury would imply that she's probably not in a wheelchair, unless she was injured and put in a wheelchair later. That doesn't stop her from being tied down to a chair, though, to fulfill that person hasn't taken a single step. Although, if it is Mukuro Ikisaba that is running Monokuma, then there's no reason to fulfill that idea that a person hasn't taken a single step.
To be denied so completely. Actually, it's kind of refreshing. Maybe it's because of all of Master's training.
If somehow Toko becomes a better person, a more sane person, because of the abuse she suffered from Byakuya, that's bad moral messaging, but also insane. ...
Anyway, so we can be sure that Mukuro suffered all those wounds after coming to this school. In which case, they could be the very thing that killed him.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's hard to imagine any other possibility. When examining her body, I found that her stomach and head wounds came after she was already dead.
Unless anyone has any better suggestions, I think we can say this with confidence.
Of course, if you're not thinking that it's Junko at this point, these revelations aren't really going to put you down the path of thinking it's Junko.
The wounds Mukuro sustained all over her body are what ultimately killed her.
And like now you can see the wounds on the body, so it's very, very obvious it's Junko. Mukuro's fatal injury has been added to the truth bullet section.
But if that's what killed her...
I don't know how you would disguise wounds like that. Probably you would just have one wound. Like, had there been a single extra stab wound that looked old, that would have been fine. Or had it been that Junko was killed originally by having her throat slit by the claws of the bear, for instance, well, the face would have been blown up and you wouldn't have even been able to notice that her throat was slit.
And does that mean she's really been dead for who knows how long?
That's exactly what it means.
Or maybe the claws of the bear, Monokuma stabbing her.
When we found her body in the garden, she'd already been dead for several days.
So then, what about the little matter of what happened last night?
Was that still last
Makoto,
night?
You said you were attacked in your room by a masked assailant.
So who was that? That had to be Mukuro Ikisaba, who has to be the mastermind, pretty much.
If Mukuro had already been dead for several days, certainly it couldn't have been her.
Yep.
So who was it that attacked you?
The identity of the one who attacked me was the mastermind. I mean, it's Mukuro. It is Mukuro.
Shoot!
Oh, so I just took damage. There goes my perfect run. It is Mukuro that did it, though. I hate this.
I got it!
I just said the right answer,
The
I'm
one who
fairly
attacked
certain.
me was the true mastermind.
If that somehow turns out that wasn't Mukuro, then I have been led down the wrong path, and I would be very happy to realize I've been led down the wrong path. As long as the right path and the true path isn't incredibly insane.
When we discovered Mukuro in the garden wearing the same mask, I naturally assumed she must have been the one who attacked me. But I was wrong.
So, yeah, this scene actually breaks the idea of saying someone else besides the 16 students might be in the place. And because clearly in this scene, the mastermind would have had to take a single step.
It wasn't her at all. It was the mastermind.
So there almost certainly isn't a 17th person.
What are you laughing at?
Oh, don't mind me. I'm just getting a little impatient sitting here listening. I think I'm gonna jump in.
So now he's gonna start asking questions, or I
Let's
guess
start off with a nice, easy question.
crazy.
Your assumption that I attacked Makoto is just that, right? An assumption. You can't really know who was under that mask, can you? I mean, that's the whole point of a mask.
You're right.
The true identity of the masked attacker is Mukuro Ikusaba. At least, that's what I think.
I think that's true.
Do you have any evidence that might convince me otherwise?
In the flashback, did she have a Fenrir tattoo on the back of her hand when she was holding that knife, or was she holding her hand the other way? I mean, does it even matter though? Because Mukuro Ikusaba may have a Fenrir tattoo on a completely different place. I wouldn't be surprised, frankly, if it turned out that Aoi was actually Mukuro Ikusaba and she pulls a tattoo, like a tattoo is shown on her stomach or something for Fenrir. No, there's no way Mukuro is the one that attacked me, even if I didn't see their face. Why? Because they don't have... Mukuro has a very obvious Fenrir tattoo compared to the other mask attacker. So, yeah, the times we've seen this scene before was before we saw the tattoo, so I didn't think of that. But that very well could be Mukuro. She just has a tattoo somewhere else. It should be obvious. I'm not sure if there's a real reason though why one of these students would also actually be Mukuro though. I think we may be doing a rhythm game now. Right. Monokuma file number 5. Right. So controls, B is the fast forward the argument, and right bump is concentrate. So never saw their face, right?
So you can't have any idea who was under that mask. I'm telling you now, it was Mukuro Ikusaba.
You're wrong. Even without seeing their face, there's another part of the attacker we can use to prove it wasn't her.
So we're just gonna follow along here
What is this
and
other
see this whole
part?
dialogue.
Is it the right hand? Or the left hand? Maybe the right foot? Or perhaps the left foot?
Right hand.
Or could it be the hips?
Seriously? It's gotta be
Never saw their
a
face,
right hand.
So you can't have any idea. I'm telling you now, it was Mukuro Ikusaba.
You're wrong. Even without seeing their face, there's another part
So
of the
try and
attacker
fast
we can
forward
use
through
to
this.
prove it wasn't her.
Oh? And what is this other part? Is it the right hand? Or the left hand? Maybe the right foot? Or perhaps the left foot?
What? Why is the
Could it be
the same text on top of the same text?
you never saw their face, right?
So you would have had to go through this at least once.
Any idea who was under that mask? I'm telling you now, it was Mukuro Ikusaba.
You're wrong. Even without seeing their face,
Darn
there's
it.
another part of the attacker we can...
Oh? And what is
it the right hand or the left hand? Maybe the, or perhaps, or could it be the hips?
They sound very funny.
You never saw their face.
When you speed them up,
so
too.
You can't have any idea
Which
who is under that mask.
perhaps they should have thought of
You now,
that.
No, that's wrong.
Because this really isn't the time where you want to be able to make the characters sound ridiculous.
Mukuro had a tattoo on her right hand, if I remember correctly.
Is that true?
A representation of Fenrir. In other words, a wolf tattoo.
Are they sure that that was ever even a tattoo and this wasn't just a case of somebody stamping a Fenrir wolf symbol on the hand? Yeah, is that just printed on like a sticker? Like, and every time they show this, all I notice is the fingernails.
But I saw the right hand of the person who attacked me.
We also saw that in every photo, Mukuro Ikisaba, I don't think we saw any fingernails on her. Although maybe we never saw her hand.
There was no such tattoo. So there's no way the person behind the mask was Mukuro.
So you couldn't put makeup on your hand?
Yeah, well, okay. You got me. I guess it wasn't her. But that still doesn't prove that it was me.
Yeah, Monokuma's just toying with you.
You know, it's someone else, right?
Hiro, Toko, Hina, and I all have solid alibis for that entire night.
I still feel like that entire night, last night, also was a point where one mastermind must have had a fight with another mastermind. Or they must have had to leave the control room in the middle of the night to accomplish something. And that's why Monokuma was just left unattended and able to be dismantled. Unless that was intentional and they needed to get the bomb out of a Monokuma unit.
Yeah, we were in the gym tearing you apart, so it could have been any of us.
They shouldn't admit that though, because that also says that each one of them attacked Monokuma, whether Monokuma was enabled or not. And so they've all violated a school regulation.
Oh, okay, sure. It couldn't have been any of you.
I guess they're just going to forget about that point.
What about Kyoko? It totally could have been her. Uh-oh, no snappy comeback. Did I score a bullseye?
Dot,
If
dot, dot.
you insist, I don't mind showing you.
Huh? Show me what?
What do you think? I'll show you the one thing that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt it wasn't me.
So she has scars on her hands, so it couldn't have been her that attacked. But she doesn't want to show the scars normally. Before anyone could say anything, we're going to get a custom animation here. Kyuko was removing her gloves.
Your hands!
Man, that looks very, very scarred, like a fire. Without thinking, I let out a gasp. It was more than just a little burned skin.
Awful, isn't it?
Yeah. Of course, if you have burned skin, I don't think you should be wearing gloves to cover it all the time. That probably doesn't make it better.
It happened when I was first learning to be a detective. I was inexperienced.
I thought you didn't want anyone to see those scars.
If it means we get another step closer to unmasking the mastermind, it doesn't really bother me.
So we're not going to get any horrific backstory of abuse, apparently. In fact, the backstory of her hands being scarred seems to not even matter, so they're not even going to tell it. Kyoko seemed to savor the words as she said them. Then she put her gloves back on. She seemed to show only one hand,
My scars
But-
should suffice as proof.
but I assume she showed both, since they said gloves.
Makoto, did the person who attacked you have scars like mine?
It would be quite a lot of movie makeup and magicry to make scarred hands look scarred.
No, not at all. I'm positive.
Then this much has been made clear. There can be no doubt that the one who attacked Makoto is the true mastermind.
Yeah, they're taking their sweet time to get to the result.
This is just awful. On top of my secret being revealed, I had to look at those positively grotesque scars of yours. Sorry, did I say that out loud? I do hope I didn't hurt your feelings.
Yeah, and once again, Monokuma seems to be written a little bit better now. More of a aggressive jerk. More like Byakuya, frankly, than the crazy Monokuma who mostly stays silent during these cases.
Not at all. You can say whatever you want.
Sure, as long as it means pushing me farther into the corner, right? But I'm not cornered just yet. Because if you haven't noticed, the circumstances surrounding
There's
Mukuro's death
weirdness
are
in a sequel to
totally
this game
unknown.
also, in the fact that I don't know how Monokuma shows back up in the sequel. I mean, he's a robot, so I guess any new bad guy in the sequel could control a Monokuma unit, and he could just be the running mascot.
That's true. All we know right now is she was killed a good while before this morning.
On the contrary, we don't know anything other than that.
You're not going to tell us she was already dead before we arrived here or something, are you?
In that regard, you have nothing to worry about.
That may just mean he's not going to tell him.
I promise you, without a doubt, she died after our little killing game began here.
And they are confirming it's a she, just in case.
Somehow, she was killed in secret without any of us knowing.
Nope.
And after she died, who knows how much time went by before we found her, right? Did the culprit stash her somewhere? She couldn't have been in the garden the whole time, could she?
No, because of the sprinklers.
She was. She would have been totally decomposed. Just like your brain.
Then she was being stored somewhere?
But to hide a body here, to just store it somewhere?
There's a freezer in the kitchen, which I imagine people looked in, and there's a freezer in the warehouse, which I imagine people looked in. There's only one place otherwise. The biolab.
I got it! Mukuro's body was probably kept hidden in the biolab.
But see, both of those are, both the garden and the biolab are on the 5th floor. So being able to move the body to the biolab could have only been done by the mastermind.
Biolab? You mean on the 5th floor?
That's right. It's actually set up for use as a morgue. So it's the perfect place to hide a body. And it'd keep the body preserved at the same time.
Then you're also saying the body was moved from the biolab to the garden.
The numbers, I think, are still off as far as the number of lights lit up in the morgue, because it does imply that there is an extra body in one of the other cabinets, that they should have opened all the cabinets and checked to see who was in them. Or there's just another person perhaps hiding in a modified cabinet freezer, or the cabinet freezer has been modified so the light lights up. Because the numbers are off if Mukuro is still alive. And Junko's body was used twice.
And I have no doubt that that's exactly what happened. In fact, I have proof.
Proof that shows the body was carried from the biolab to the garden. That's the tarp. Alright, so I'll present the tarp.
Got it! What makes me so sure the body was carried from the biolab
I don't
to
know what the
garden is
point of slowing down time there would really be.
the tarp that we found in the garden. When I was checking it over again, I noticed something. I noticed that some text had been stamped on one corner of the tarp.
Oh, it says biolab.
See, this is a point where he didn't grab the tarp and keep it as evidence. He's just thinking about it, and yet everyone can see what he's thinking about.
Holy cow! How'd you notice that tiny little thing?
Makoto's nitpicky nature seems to have surfaced with perfect timing.
That's a really rude way to say something
This
nice.
proves that the tarp originally came from the biolab. In fact, there's a whole stack of tarps just like it in there.
There's 7 of them in total. Looks
So
like.
when the killer moved the body to the garden, they must have grabbed a tarp to wrap it in.
They still would have had to drag the body.
Then they simply left it as it was to protect against the sprinklers and put the coat on it afterwards.
You made everything sound so amazingly consistent.
Still don't know what happened to the chicken's body.
That's just a wild guess.
You can see Monokuma is sweating bullets.
Where's your evidence? Prove that the body was wrapped in a tarp and moved.
There is no evidence. I was simply explaining what I think happened. But you seem to be getting pretty worked up about it, wouldn't you say?
Worked up?
Now that the conversation has turned to the topic of the biolab, you must be getting pretty nervous. Because the key to uncovering your secret identity is hidden within that room, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still gotta be Mukuro Ikisaba though, unless it's just somebody else. Like, that would be the biggest twist of all, is that we solve this case and then it jumps to a scene and it sees that one of the morgue chambers opens up and some random character we've never seen before shows up. That would be the teaser bait for a sequel, if anything. Or it would be a copy of a clone of somebody comes out of the morgue, or someone who we thought was dead comes out of the morgue.
You talking about unmasking the mastermind?
You see, the biolab contained an inconsistency. One so major it can't be overlooked.
An inconsistency in the biolab. Could you be talking about?
I can't hear you. La 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 la.
Interesting. He's just gonna.
Such a child. Oh well, just ignore him.
I need to pull myself together and think. The inconsistency in the biolab. Could you be talking about?
By the way, Makoto, what about that one thing?
Wow, is Monokuma just not gonna let me think? Dot dot dot.
One thing.
What do you think I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
Your family.
Yeah, it has been a real long time since we've seen anything about the family. That was weird that they had voiced the family. And if we flash back to that video, is it perhaps your Makoto's sister is Mukuro Ikisaba? And we didn't know that because there was such a big gap between it. Or perhaps your family in some way is involved? What?
Don't tell me you forgot about that video message.
Oh my goodness. The father is the headmaster. And I think the sister is Mukuro Ikisaba. At the very least, she's in the same school uniform as the Hope's Peak students are in, but we never saw the school uniform for Hope's Peak until much later in the story. I don't think the mother plays any role here. So Makoto's sister does go to Hope's Peak, it looks like. I mean, that uniform is definitely in that line. Or she maybe graduated from Hope's Peak, but why would she be in a school uniform if she'd already graduated from it? The only thing that would imply that she isn't going to Hope's Peak is the fact that she has brown socks, which why would you want brown socks instead of white socks? But no. The Japanese schools take pride in there being specific color patterns for specific schools. You wouldn't have overlapping schools colors. But yeah, this looks like your father is the headmaster, which would potentially mean that Makoto is like the son of a second family of the headmaster, maybe. Which that would be weird. Maybe I'm making a mistake assuming he's the headmaster. There's got to be something here more to it though, other than just the mentioning of the apocalypse, which must have happened. The fading out.
So what do you think?
And
Are
then,
you sure your family's still okay?
let's see, here we have a whole bunch of broken stuff and smoke and darkness in the background in the sky, which is the most disturbing part to me. Like, if it was just a case that Monokuma or Mukuro Kisaba showed up and killed the family, that doesn't explain the sky.
Why are you bringing that up now?
He's trying to distract you. Although this would be a great point to ask what everybody else saw on their DVDs.
Your mom, your dad, your little sister. What
Yeah.
do you think has happened to your family?
If his little sister has the same outfit as Hope's Peak, that would also mean that Makoto isn't a first year. Well, no, she could be a little sister and be in the same year, school year. She could just be a month, 6 months, 9 months earlier. I guess 9 months would be the minimum if they're biological.
Are they really as safe as you might have assumed?
Can't do anything about this, so this is really just a distraction,
Stop talking about that.
obviously.
Calm down, Makoto. He wants you to get upset.
But why is it that Makoto is the only smart enough person in the room to solve the case? Or at least Monokuma thinks that way, so he's not messing with any of the other students anymore. ... I'm gonna cough 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Figure it's better to mute myself than cough wildly into a microphone. But yeah, you would think you would try to mess up Kyoko's thinking and Byakuya's thinking too. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of talking, obviously, so that's wearing out my voice. Once again, I can't let him get to me. He's just saying that because he knows we're getting close to the truth of the biolab. So if I want to shut him up, I need to expose the inconsistency and slam it with it. The inconsistency has to be, there's one area where the numbers just don't match up. Is that in the biolab? Or is that... Alright, so here we got another rhythm
Are
thing.
you sure about this? That's impossible! Are you sure about this? That's impossible! What? What do you want? Are you sure about this? That's impossible! Are you sure about this? That's impossible!
Maybe you don't have to actually
That's impossible!
recharge.
Are you sure about this? That's impossible!
2, 3, shoot. 1, 2, 3, 4, shoot.
What do you want?
Shoot. X, X, X. 1, 2, 3, 4, shoot. Yeah.
I'm not listening! Are you sure about this? That's impossible!
Let's see. There must be another select truth bullet somewhere that we have to do.
Listening! That's impossible!
Well, I just messed that up. Okay, we lost.
Is this...
Give it another shot.
I refuse to give up yet.
So that's like the first time we've ever had a rhythm game where we've had to select a different bullet, so it's no surprise that it would be different there.
Are you sure about this?
2, 3, fire. 1, 2, 3, fire.
Sure about this?
2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fire. 1, 2, fire. 1, 1, 2, 3, fire.
About this?
That's impossible!
Are you sure about this?
That's impossible!
Are you sure about this?
That's
Like, I'm trying really hard here. Alright,
I'm not
let's see.
listening!
Hidden room present, biosecret lab. Hidden room present, biolab secret, biolab lights.
Are you sure about this?
That's impossible!
I'm messing up real here.
That's impossible!
Are you sure about this?
Alright. Biolab
I'm
lights
not listening!
This should prove it.
was what we needed to use. But boy did that suck. And we're at like almost
Consistency.
completely
Talking about
out
is-
of life a second time. And I don't know if we can actually continue a second time or not. It would really suck to have to load from a save point and rush all the way back to that point. And see, we're really deep into the story. This is like the best part of the story so far. And I really would just prefer to be able to put everything else in autopilot, skip the gameplay mechanics, or just have that be automated and just have them tell me the story elements now. Unlike a lot of other visual novels, when there is a gameplay mechanic, it usually is in the lesser important sections, and then the important storyline reveals or the important scenes visually usually are on the rails and automated as a reward, in the same way that boss victory cutscenes occur in other kinds of games.
What are you talking about? What about the lights?
Like I said before, the biolab also acts as a morgue.
Yep. And
as
there are
part of
7.
that, a giant refrigerator was installed in there.
There's 7 lights, which there should be only 6, I think.
That's where everyone who's died is stored.
Or 9 lights when there should be only 8.
And it was set up so that when a slot had a body in it, a blue light would turn on.
In other words, if the blue light is on, that means there's a body in that slot.
But I counted up the number of blue lights that were on, including the one Mukuro was in. And there were only 9.
There's 9 when there should be 10.
Why does that matter? You gotta give me the bite-sized version here, man.
9 lights doesn't make sense. There should be 10 lights.
I got it!
And now I have to recover
10
health
lights
as quickly.
should have been on. Any other number is incredibly suspicious.
But see, I think the idea that 10 of the lights should be on only makes sense if you assume that Mukuro has been killed. But I've been working from the opposite perspective that she hasn't been killed, so 9 lights makes a lot of sense to me.
Suspicious? Why? That's simple. Just recall
I'm
who's died here
Probably
so
too
far,
far
and it
ahead
should
in the
become
story at this point, and it's becoming a speed bump. That's right, the key to solving this mystery. Sayaka died first, and so yeah, if any of these people turn out to be the masterminds, that'd be crazy. Yeah, I don't know how Sayaka could potentially fake her own death there, even if she did have a fake knife that collapsed. How would Leon not have figured that out? Junko was second. You see, this is like the last time we get to see a picture of Junko's face, but there's really not a lot to take from that. And we don't see any like Fenrir wolf tattoos on her. Leon was third. Yeah, Leon was the one with a lot of face jewelry, which they kind of forgot about. None of the other characters really had that. Chihiro was fourth. I definitely do feel like they kind of have a style in which they like to draw all the characters. It's a little monoculture when they could have drawn some weirder characters for sure. Taka was 6th and Hifumi was 7th. Celeste was the 8th. Sakura was 9th. And victim number 10 was Mukuro. So 10 pin people
right.
in all.
Any other number should make you immediately suspicious. But according to the lights in the biolab, only 9 people were being stored there.
You're saying a dead body just up and disappeared?
No.
Got it! The mastermind destroyed one of the bodies to get rid of evidence.
Would that get rid of evidence, or would that create more
But
evidence?
if they wanted to do that, they would have destroyed Mukuro's body, since they actually killed her.
If anything, they would have destroyed all the bodies
And yet, her body was
and
left
incinerated them all.
Then, whose body disappeared?
It may very well be that none of them disappeared.
Finally, we get to that point.
But if that's true, then why doesn't the body count match?
Including Monokuma's executions. There have apparently been 10 deaths, but there were only 9 bodies. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I'm completely lost. How can the number of victims be less than the number of murderers?
Reason there are less bodies than murders. Explanation for more murders than victims. Why is that? The same person was killed twice. Mastermind destroyed a body. Only 9 murders took place. There weren't actually 10 murders, but 9. That's why there were 9 bodies. That's patently untrue. Counting Monokuma's executions has indeed been 10 murders. I think we can all agree to that. Actually, you're politely right, so... So, yeah, I just have a tiny sliver of health now before we lose again. But that is the right thing. See, now twice now, I've answered the way I think is right, and then either I am way down the wrong path, or the game is just screwing with us and making us pick between 2 very similar answers, both of which feel correct.
Killed twice?
Officially, 10 murders have been committed so far. But one of the victims may have been murdered, and then murdered again.
This sounds ridiculous the way it's being phrased.
Murdered again?
If that's the case, there could have been 10 killings, but still only 9 victims, right?
Technically, you're right, I guess. But still, something like that.
Could easily have happened. No, it is what happened.
If anything, I'm waiting for a point where Byakuya just accuses Kyoko and Makoto of working together to, and that they are both the ultimate despair.
Sounds like you're already convinced. Then can you tell us who was killed twice?
It was Mukuro, of course.
I guess maybe the twist here is that Junko was Mukuro always.
Before she was killed as Mukuro Ikusaba, she was killed as someone else.
And that's why the body had to be stored in the biolab until the moment we found it in the garden.
No, that's crazy talk. She was killed as someone else? Come on!
Is the mastermind really Junko, and Junko has just never been here?
Besides, who could that someone else even have been?
All you have to do is look at those bodily injuries of hers, and that will become obvious.
Nothing's gonna become obvious. Because Kyoko's totally delusional.
Are we gonna have to do another rhythm game? Please, no. Pretty much no way I would succeed in that. Monokuma File 5, I think again. Like, we have a good chance of failing.
Else that Mukuro was killed as? Was it Sayaka Maizono?
Interesting.
Junko Enoshima? Leon Kuwata? Chihiro Fujisaki?
I don't know why the purple is just coming.
Owada?
He's just naming everybody.
Ishimaru? Hifumi Yamada? Celestia Lu, whatever? Or maybe Sakura Ogami? No. There's no way anyone was murdered twice.
No, it's wrong.
Seeing if I'd been wrong about that, I would have lost. He just named everybody.
Junko.
Finally the story has caught up to where I was about 12 hours ago.
Wasn't her fatal injury pretty similar to Mukuro's?
And in all fairness, this was the thing that started to get me more interested in playing Danganronpa and stopped me from watching any further as far as the Game Grumps covering this game. And I promise this is the first and probably only time I'll ever mention watching someone else play a game in my coverage. But yeah, once I had that suspicion, I felt very involved and wanted to play it. Although, in all fairness, I had already bought Danganronpa and did want to play it anyways.
What do you mean?
Well,
So.
remember what happened to her?
This scene with all the blood over it hides a bunch of parts of her body, so we don't see any places where a wolf tattoo could be. But we can see she's not wearing gloves, so the Fenrir tattoo seems like it may have been added later. And see, this looked like it was just an upskirt shot that had been filtered, censored, and blurred. But maybe there was some other secret here that we were supposed to recognize or remember for later. I don't see how anybody could have done that if they hadn't played the game before.
She was impaled by a bunch of spears all over her body.
And Mukuro died from a number of wounds across her body. When you compare that to the stab wounds Junko suffered,
Similarities match?
That's not the only thing.
Yes, and those are the only fatal injuries that match up. That explains why those two bodies are actually one and the same.
The height and the weight and the vitals are all the same too.
so let me see if I have this straight. Junko, or someone going by that name, was stabbed to death with multiple spears.
Yeah. We don't know if that's Junko, though, or we don't know if that's Mukuro.
Then her body was kept in the biolab for however long before being dragged out again.
What would be the point, though, of Mukuro actually being Junko and Junko actually being Mukuro? Though in the photos, there wouldn't be a point. If anything, there would have to be another person who is pretending to be Junko at the beginning that wasn't actually Junko. And the real Junko must be safe and sound outside of the school, or maybe not safe and sound, but outside the school.
Only this time, it was presented as the corpse of one Mukuro Ikusaba.
It all matches up, right? Those wounds Junko suffered could easily be these same injuries.
It's really true? Mukuro and Junko are the same person?
I don't think so.
So then, what does it all mean?
That is a question.
It means that there haven't been 10 victims, but 9. Which also means that among the people we thought were dead, one is still alive.
And that's the true identity of the mastermind?
Yeah, whether that's Junko or Mukuro or someone else.
Who is it? Who's behind all this?
We already know the answer to that. It's Mukuro. She's still alive. She took Junko's body
Hmm.
and made it look like she was the one who died.
Hmm. But then what about the tattoo? How'd you get the tattoo on?
So Mukuro is still alive. She's gotta be.
And see, this would be the good twist if they go, nope.
Total silence? Then I must be right. I'm right, aren't I?
Mukuro alive. The one that's alive is Mukuro, but can we really believe that? No, there's no way. There's no way Mukuro Ikisaba is still alive. How are we going to make an argument for that? I don't believe that. Her profile.
The body we found in the garden.
Let's see if I make a mistake here.
Wasn't
I'm
Mukuro.
messed.
Then she's
Messed
still
up.
alive?
That's right. She made it look like Junko's body was her.
Hmm.
So the mastermind's true identity is Mukuro.
What do you say, Monokuma? Do you give up?
Interesting. Am I supposed to shoot? For that to be true, then that couldn't have been her body we found in the garden. Is that really possible?
The body we found in the garden. It wasn't Mukuro.
Let's hope that's right.
No, it's wrong.
Otherwise I was gonna lose.
No, the body we found in the garden was Mukuro. That's one thing we can be sure of.
So the mastermind must be Junko, so then this is the trial for who killed Mukuro.
The body's appearance and measurements are consistent with her records.
But so is Junko's measurements.
Right, Kyoko?
She was 5 foot 6 inches tall and weighed 97 pounds. Her vitals were 31, 21, 32. Everything in her profile is consistent with that corpse.
And then there's the matter of the Fenrir tattoo. So there's no question it's her.
There's still question there.
But if Mukuro's not the mastermind, then who's actually still alive?
Somebody made it look like they died, but they're actually still alive. The only person it could be, select someone. Well, I mean, are we gonna choose Junko? Or do we choose? We really don't have time to go around here.
Here's my answer.
I guess we're gonna go with Junko because that's I think what we
Junko
want to
is
pick.
still alive. It's the only possibility.
Dot dot dot.
Are you sure about that?
No.
Huh?
I admit, since Mukuro is undoubtedly dead.
See, and that's
Junko does
just
seem
an
to be
obvious
the only
point where
other
they wanted us to
explanation.
put in the wrong information, which seems completely antithetical to the idea of doing a murder mystery game, to actually have the player be penalized when they're saying the right answer because they figured it out way before the game wanted you to figure it out.
But
And
we
see,
saw
you
her
can
getting
kind of
killed.
see
She died
how
right
they
before our very eyes.
didn't do enough animation or spend enough time with Junko for that case.
If Junko were still alive, the death we saw would had to have been some kind of charade.
I hadn't even considered that as a possibility. I don't think so.
But you yourself confirmed she was dead, did you not?
Now that you mention it. I gently placed my hand on Junko's lifeless body. And see, she's wearing a short skirt with just ankle-high boots. So if she does have a Fenrir tattoo on her body somewhere, it's got to be somewhere fairly well covered. And in this scene, there's blood on the back of her hand, so we wouldn't have been able to see if there was a tattoo then. I touched her wrist to check for a pulse, like they do in movies and stuff, but she really is dead. There wasn't anything to say. She was gone. I did check, absolutely, and I can say for sure.
She was dead. There's no question. Junko was dead.
So, the idea that she's still alive.
It must be wrong.
Yeah.
Then you're withdrawing your previous statement?
They're having us go around in circles.
I know you gave it your best shot, but too bad. I guess your conclusion was a dud.
This would be funny if that was a branching path and they let you have this ending, but you could have also done a different ending.
Too bad.
Which that sucks if we're gonna have to start all over again.
This case hasn't been decided just yet.
No, it doesn't feel like that was a branching path.
You haven't given up already, have you, Makoto?
Huh?
No, of course not. There's no way I'd give up that easy.
And see, this all cycles back to the idea of having hope.
That's all well and good, but how do you intend to solve the problem standing in your way? Junko absolutely died. Mukuro absolutely died.
Then both of them are dead, right? There can't be any kind of survivor story.
I think we need to look at this from the opposite direction.
Huh? The opposite direction?
Keep on moving
Let's
forward.
assume Junko is still alive. If so, how could she have survived?
The bigger question is, if they can erase the memories of a character, can they implant memories to make Mukuro Ikisaba think she was Junko? How could Junko have survived? I checked her, she was dead, I was sure of it. But still, if she were alive somehow, could it be that Junko's not the one that died? It wasn't Junko, but someone else entirely. Maybe she used some sort of trick. And then we're gonna have a hangman's game, but I have no idea what we're gonna spell. R-A... Let's see. I guess. I don't know what I'm spelling, so I'm just gonna try E. Nope. Game over, failed.
Is this real?
So I guess they give you 2 minutes to continue every time. But yeah, we now are in the point where I have no idea what I'm even trying to spell. So I think it's RE something. Replaced. And then we need an E. And then a D. Replaced.
Now I understand.
That was fairly tough to figure out that's the word they were looking for.
What if she switched places with someone else?
Switched places?
That's right. Before the spears could kill her, she got someone to take her place. Specifically, Mukuro Ikusaba.
Then that would make it Mukuro's corpse that showed up later.
Which is why the body's height and weight and everything match Mukuro's profile,
At
right?
what point would Mukuro have convinced Junko to switch places with her? It must have been before anybody else woke up and met in the meeting hall.
About this switching places thing, but that had to be Junko who got stabbed to death, right?
Not really. The e-handbooks could easily be lying about who is who. They could change pictures, changed weights, heights, and measurements too.
Yeah, you're saying they switched? When Right when she was about to die? Like she used some kind of ninja replacement technique?
No.
Good point. There's just no way they could have switched like that. So maybe the whole idea is wrong.
It would also certainly explain why, though, Junko attacked Monokuma after we had already seen Monokuma nearly blow up another student. If Mukuro Ikasaba was pretending to be Junko, she being the ultimate soldier, would have thought she could have taken Monokuma down. But also that is a bad implication that the ultimate soldier wasn't a good enough soldier to beat Monokuma. There has to be some way. They switched at the beginning, they switched after death, they switched at the moment of death. They switched at the beginning.
Two of them may have switched places from the very beginning.
What? From the beginning?
Yes, from the moment we first met.
Yeah, I suppose that's a possibility. I mean, for all you know, none of these people gave real names. Is there any other thing to take from what you can see here as we're panning between this large group of people, which they definitely should have thought of a better way to be able to show each of the characters than this. It's not like the PlayStation Portable had a particularly wide screen resolution. Anyways, this would have had to pan even further on the PSP, I'm sure. No, there's not much I see here different. Maybe Leon's shirt is different than the way he was depicted otherwise, but that's it. Everybody else looks like they're in the same outfits. And looking at the shoes, looking at the socks, looking at the pants, looking at the hair colors. Nope.
If that's when they switched. Then they wouldn't have had to switch at the moment of death, right? After all, the one we saw at that point would have already been Mukuro.
Hold on. So you're saying the Junko we first met was actually Mukuro all along?
If Junko was Mukuro all along, that there's some other points that need to be questions. For instance, how could she be so famous that she was on fashion magazines, or how could Mukuro look so much like the fashionista Junko unless they were identical twins? Yeah, that would be a bit of a question. I'm just noticing here too that her bra is peeking out of her shirt. This is very much out of school uniform type appearance, but I'm not seeing any Fenrir tattoos or anything that I would think would even represent or look like a wolf. Yeah, I don't know why Junko would have swapped in the first place, and I don't know how any of that would work unless they were identical twins or nearly identical twins.
Then we'd already met her?
Yeah, this doesn't fully make sense.
I had like a normal conversation with her.
When we first met, none of us knew who anyone else was.
That's not true. Makoto looked up everybody, except for Kyoko.
So Mukuro could have simply told us her name was Junko.
But I suppose Makoto only was on a forum and heard talk about the students. He didn't know what any of the students looked like. But he should have known what she looked like.
Would have known the difference.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense.
That would easily allow the two of them to switch places from the very beginning.
The how and the why both don't make sense in this case.
Wait, but Mukuro had a tattoo on the back of her hand, right? Junko never had any tattoo like that, did she?
I guess we do have a scene here. It's been so long since we did anything with Junko.
She could
She
have
was the
hidden
first
it with
one that-
foundation or something like that. If she did, it likely melted away in the explosion, exposing the tattoo after the body was extinguished.
So yeah, makeup.
Plus, there were the fake nails found on the hands of Mukuro's body.
They're really banging on the head of this nail a little too much now to explain everything away.
They were the same fake red nails she was wearing when we all met for the first time.
But if she really did use foundation,
Correct. Even if there was no tattoo on her hand, I couldn't say for certain it wasn't Mukuro. So I'm glad nobody noticed that glaring hole when we were trying to figure out who attacked Makoto. But too bad for you, Monokuma. You can't deny it anymore.
So yeah, they're even in the storyline having to go back and explain that, oh, I'm glad nobody called us out on this BS because this totally is BS as far as the foundation covering up a tattoo idea. ...
So, this whole thing was a setup from the very beginning?
Yeah, well, fairly obvious it was some kind of setup from the beginning.
That's true. It was quite an elaborate plan to be sure, making it look like Mukuro was Junko.
The reason such an elaborate plan was possible is because the two of them were working together.
So Mukuro, the ultimate despair, teamed up with someone like her. In other words, it would be fair to say that Junko herself was also the ultimate despair.
What's wrong? Lost the will to fight back?
I think he's just afraid.
Afraid? What's that mean, afraid? Fear is only possible where hope is possible. I only have despair, so fear is an alien concept to me.
Yeah, I feel like there's another twist to this, certainly.
Then why haven't you been saying anything?
Because it's a bunch of nonsense. Junko's my secret identity? As if.
Then why did you try and protect Junko's real identity?
I tried to protect her identity? When did I do that?
Still refuses to admit it, but he can try and deceive us all he wants. It doesn't matter because I've already figured it out. He tried to hide Junko's identity not just once but twice. Okay, where? First time was in our latest investigation. As far as I think we have to assume the interview DVD is going to be one of them. We only have like 5 minutes here. I'm hoping it's the Monokuma file. Okay, and I don't think this is what I needed to corner Monokuma. Tried to hide Junko's identity not just once but twice. First was during our latest investigation. Let's see. Biolab secret group photo. Group photo or interview DVD? I think the group photo might be one. Hold on. What matters now is presenting the right evidence. It has to do with Monokuma trying to keep me from seeing during the investigation. So that was wrong in... That was probably right later. And see, you just can't guess here. Let's see. Biolab secret. Kyoko's account. Mukuro's fatal injury. Interview DVD. I mean, I gotta try the interview DVD, but I don't think that's right. That was right.
I was in the AV room, watching the DVD of our interviews with the headmaster.
I can't believe that's the right answer. Because either I'm getting sleepy and I'm not thinking as straight as I have been, or it is just becoming more and more obtuse as far as this. This is kind of the problem that I've run into with a lot of mediocre to bad point-and-click adventures too. The moon logic, as it is in point-and-click adventures, usually is based on comedy, but often there are just things that just would not make any sense to the average person, and it would only make sense to the person who had made the game or was working on the game for many months. It wasn't just the monitor, the DVD player itself had apparently turned off, which of course meant the DVD wasn't playing anymore. What the heck just happened? Oopsie, looked like it broke out of service. And what's funny is if a DVD player was unplugged or cut out, then how did he get the DVD out of the DVD player? It's been many decades since there was a hole in front of DVD players in which you could force the disc tray to eject the disc. That's not something they bother installing anymore. Or an eject button. There used to be eject buttons on DVD, some DVD players too. Or I guess at the time those were CD players, not DVD players. So it just happened to break just now. Now then, when doesn't matter. Failure can strike anytime, anywhere. And that's what failure is, right?
You made sure I couldn't finish watching the video. And the reason you did that because you didn't want me to see the real Junko, did you?
But then I guess the question here is, did Kyoko not watch the entire DVD either?
Oh, yeah! If everyone was in that video, of course Junko would have had to show up.
And if Makoto saw the real Junko...
Like, why would Kyoko not have seen the whole DVD or mentioned it?
Totally
that she hadn't seen the whole DVD.
Was an imposter.
That whole power outage thing was just a fluke.
No, it wasn't a fluke. The Mastermind definitely orchestrated the power outage. And that's not the only time they tried to hide Junko's identity. The Mastermind tried to cover it up. One other piece of evidence, I've got to reveal that. So, now, oh man. One, two, 3, 4.
What do you want?
And once I get the tempo good.
Are you sure about this? You're getting all riled up. That's impossible.
Let's just see if we can power through this. And see if we can get a combo. See, I don't even know if there is an achievement for combos. Remember, we're gonna have to figure out the final strike.
That's impossible.
Group photo.
This should prove it.
But see, the problem with these mini games is they don't show you that you have multiple bullets.
The only thing you tried to cover
So
up.
you didn't even know you had multiple bullets until this final case, and you didn't really have multiple bullets in the previous cases.
I noticed it just a little while ago, when we were all comparing the photos we got. In all the photos, there's a certain similarity, an unusual circumstance.
Yep.
What's so unusual about them?
The unusual circumstance to all these pictures. And see, is it just gonna flash between each of them? Junko's face.
I got it! Junko's face.
But we see Mukuro Ikusaba in all those photos. So she must have changed her appearance quite a bit before starting this murder game. So we just kind of don't know who the real Junko is, or if she was ever even in the school.
One thing common to every single photo is that you can't see her face.
But it's not like there's been an extra character in the story either, unless it's Makoto's sister. Which, yeah, that's the only other high school student we've even seen in this game would be Makoto's sister. Yeah. Mondo's brother wouldn't make any sense. Seems like at this point you'd probably be well suited to zoom in and highlight that, or at least circle, put a red circle around it.
It's hard to believe her face would just happen to be hidden in every single picture, don't you think? And on top of that, in this photo you can see that Mukuro is clearly visible. So in other words, at that point, the two of them hadn't switched yet.
And I guess if they still had their memories...
There's no doubt that the girl whose face is hidden here is the real Junko.
No, I guess the real Junko probably still had her memories removed. Also, if you look at Junko, her tie is white and black like Monokuma's tie color scheme, which that's fairly obvious also.
Which is why you had to have pictures that didn't show her face. Because if we could have seen her face, then it would have clearly revealed.
I guess the other thing is that the couple of other pictures we found where we saw Junko, we actually were looking at... nope. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense at all. There's definitely a picture. The first photo we found definitely showed Junko's face, and there would be something weird about that.
That the Junko in the pictures wasn't the Junko that we knew.
This implies that the first photo we found was edited or photoshopped at that point. This story is getting my goat quite a bit because there are some logical contradictions. It's funny, we for probably 60 hours now have been playing game mechanics around revealing contradictions, and now that we are getting into the meat of the real mystery, there are quite a few contradictions that keep coming up as far as this swap and the photos and other things.
I believe everything Makoto said is true.
I'm not sure. I'm confused again.
Junko and Mukuro switched places before we met either of them.
So she killed Mukuro, who had taken her place, making it look like she'd died. And the real Junko is still alive.
Yeah, really all they're arguing about is a name.
And she's the one behind this whole murderous situation. This killing game. She's the true mastermind and the ultimate despair.
The why still has yet to be answered at all. Xanadu is a weird word to use. Particularly since we had characters cussing a lot at the beginning.
With this, the identity and the crimes of
That
the
would have been a
mastermind
time
have been exposed.
to probably add a poop or a cuss word.
No, wait! Hold on!
Don't bother trying to deny it. There's no more room for debate. You don't have anywhere left to run. I'll prove everything, right now.
See, what's funny though is if Monokuma controls everything and they vote for the blackened, why not just reprogram and cheat the voting machine and say that they voted someone else? How are we going to prove it right now? Closing arguments. It's been a while since we've done this. We got 20 minutes. So, Junko, showing a lot of skin. What was the identity of the ultimate fashionista who I met in the hall? Right, so... the identity of the ultimate fashionista maybe this. And then in Act 2, she attacks the heterochroma, the different eye colors. Maybe that's an identifying mark. Nope, she doesn't have heterochroma. There's just a video effect. Well, that's a terrible time to have a video effect. I think I would have noticed if they had two different colored eyes. But did the mastermind keep the body? I think we can assume that that's true. Mastermind attacked me with something. What was it? Knife. I assume that's right. Got 3 more parts. When the mastermind attacked me, who was it that stopped him? Kyoko. After the surprise attack failed, the mastermind fled my room. What did the mastermind do after they took off? Did they move the body? Or did they put the mask? See, that could be wrong. What was the condition of the dead body when we first found it in the garden? On fire? Not first. Burnt? No. It was like that. And then these animations are different from what really happened. We couldn't identify the body because it got blown up. I assume that's the right thing. So, 17 minutes, I hope this is right.
Here is you. We met the ultimate fashionista, Junko and Oshima, right after we all arrived here.
Oh, really, that was Mukuro. Which just changes the name and basically nothing. As if they were plotting this murder from the very beginning, which maybe they were.
That wasn't the real Junko. The girl we saw before us was actually the 16th student who had taken Junko's place.
Because they were working together.
That girl's name was Mukuro Ikusaba.
I guess they were working together. Why were they working together? I don't know.
But it wasn't long before she died at the hands of Monokuma. In other words, the mastermind.
If she was working together with, if Mukuro Ikusaba was working with her, then why would she have attacked Monokuma in the first place?
Junko and Oshima.
Unless it was she was tricked and told to attack him. Which would have left an opportunity for her to scream out a name and a hint as she died.
Until Junko decided to put her body to use. Junko dragged the body out of the biolab, using the tarp to carry her to the garden.
I guess if you were going to try to kill the ultimate soldier, though, tricking her and pretending to be working with her is a decent plan. It did work.
She fabricated the murder to try and frame Kyoko, who's proven to be one big thorn in her side. Meanwhile, she wanted us all to think Mukuro was still alive and hiding somewhere inside the school. So So she put on a mask and then attacked me.
And I guess if she had succeeded, how would that really have worked? I don't know.
Making sure I'd gotten a good look at the mask, she left the room.
I guess maybe it was a fake attack. And so that was a mistake, and we take 1 damage, and we could easily have failed there. Is that the right one? Probably.
The killer is you.
If that's wrong.
Sure I'd gotten a good look at the mask, she left the room.
Okay, I have to hit A. I forgot about that. So that was the
Then
right
she put
picture.
The same mask on Mukuro's body. This was all to make us think the person who attacked me and the corpse were one and the same. She wanted us to believe the murder had only recently taken place.
But all this means is the mastermind is somebody named Junko, who we don't really know who she looks like, unless she looks like Mukuro Ikisaba, which doesn't really mean anything anyways.
Finally, by strapping a bomb to the body, she was able to destroy any remaining evidence. She needed to hide the body's true identity.
I still don't really get why, unless it is one of the characters we've seen, either Makoto's sister or Aoi or Toko, or Makoto is actually a girl, or Byakuya is actually a girl, or Yasuhiro is actually a girl. I don't get why Mukuro needed to hide her identity in the first place, because it didn't seemingly gain her anything. Once we figured out Mukuro existed, we saw a picture of whoever Mukuro or Junko's looks like. I guess that's the better way to phrase it, is the real Junko. Why did she need to hide her identity when it didn't gain her anything? And once we got a picture of Mukuro, or who they were claiming to be Mukuro, we kind of know what the real Junko looks like.
She had to make sure we didn't find out it was actually the same person we met in the beginning.
I think like a catch-22 logic, because they painted themselves into a corner a bit. And it's just so overly complicated. And almost certainly making an overly complicated murder mystery is the way to get caught.
This is the truth behind Mukuro's murder.
Because you're leaving more evidence.
And the one who carried it all out is the true mastermind. The one controlling Monokuma.
And I guess maybe the only twist here is it could be that that Mukuro's was actually the Mukuro person we've seen was actually killed, and that's her bones in the secret room in the headmaster's room in the present. And actually the headmaster was never in the school, or he's dead somewhere else. And then there's some other student we just haven't seen. Dot.
The real Junko Enoshima.
It'd be kind of crazy if Junko turns out to be the bad guy throughout the whole series. But at the very least, that would give her a reason to keep coming back. Dot.
What? Are you broken again?
Get out of this, so don't even try.
It's time you finally revealed yourself.
It's not like you're an endangered species or something. How long do you plan to keep hiding?
Give it up, Junko. The game's over.
This would be funny if this actually is where the game ends. It'd be a fine ending. It's not a completely unsatisfactory ending if this is it. I would like some wrap up, but I wouldn't be upset if there's only an hour or two left of gameplay to wrap up the stories.
Over? Did you really think the story would end once we reach the climax of the case? Wrong! There's still plenty more to go!
It kind of suck if there's like an hour left. Oh, we got an animation, his eyes are blinking. Ultimate Despair, Junko Inoshima looks exactly like Junko, other than the fact she has 2 bears in her hair instead of bunnies. The tie was kind of a dead giveaway.
Waiting so very long for peasants like you to appear.
You have a crown on her. And that is a very weird voice line. She also seems to have like a choker necklace now and a bow on her shirt for no reason. Her bra seems to have red accents also. Yeah, so slightly different outfit.
If you swear your fealty to us, we will reward you with half of the entire world!
Interesting offer. I don't know how you could deliver on that. It'd be crazy if this really is just the real Junko is just crazy. And that's it. There's no bigger story.
We will grant you honor, status, in some of our home cooking.
See, what would be funnier is if this is actually just Monokuma. He transformed himself to look like Junko and he's just teasing him.
Have you made your choice? Will you serve under us?
I guess the answer is no thanks. Can we save? At this point? Nope.
Oh, did you think I was being serious? Sorry, I was just messing with you.
And this Junko doesn't have the Finryo tattoo. She also seems to have that same weird logo on her shoulder that we've seen some of the other students have.
It's been so long since I've had an audience. Even I'm not sure what kind of role I'm supposed to play.
Yeah, the voice acting here seems pretty bad, but I can't really blame them for not hiring the best voice actor possible to do a voice acting for a character that barely is in the game. And of course this is the English voice acting, so in the Japanese, which unfortunately I guess there was never a time here where we could have swapped over, because I didn't even think about that. Nope, no way to switch languages or anything. This is the mastermind? She's the real Junko Inoshima?
Anyway, looks like I've finally been set free. Having to play Monokuma all the time, day after day.
So how did she teleport herself is the real question. Or maybe she didn't. Maybe she was in the Monokuma by the time the elevator got down. Maybe there's a personal elevator from the Monokuma control room all the way to these courtrooms.
It was like I was stuck in purgatory. Or like a slow suicide. I get bored so easy, you know?
And see, now if we think about all the Monokuma theaters, does any of that really seem like it applies to Junko? Not really. Yeah, the Monokuma theater still feels like it's kind of just craziness for craziness' sake. Yeah, at a certain level, you have to kind of question whether you needed Monokuma in the first place. It could have just been Junko being the ultimate despair from the beginning. Regardless, yeah, it could have been. And then you would have just one mystery less to solve. It's not like the mastermind's identity being hidden really would have affected any of the other cases.
Face.
What's special about her face? I'm not seeing anything.
Huh? What about my face?
But yeah, the voice acting is pretty terrible.
What's wrong with my beautiful face? People have told me I'm cuter than 100 chihuahuas combined.
I guess this also probably implies why Junko would have been picked to be crazy, though, is that if there are people as a fashionista that are always only looking at skin deep as far as her character, it could have left her incredibly jaded with the world.
I feel like this isn't the first time I've seen you.
No, I do remember seeing it. I'm sure I've seen it here too. First day in the main hall, the headmaster's room before arriving at school.
I got it! That's right. It was before I ever came to this school. I remember seeing a magazine cover.
Yeah, we'd seen the magazine cover, and that was Junko, and Junko looks like Junko. Unless they're gonna pull a twist here. Like Junko, this Junko, which is a fake Junko with the bunny and the bow in the hair. To me, and maybe I just suffer from a little face blindness, or maybe it's the animation style, looks exactly like the Junko that we're looking at now.
And you were on it.
Yeah, we see these photos, and that just looks like Junko. Like big blue eyes, big blonde hair. And see if the scar on her face in the lower left hand corner, which it looks like there's a scar over her face, but I think that's just the eye patch. If there had been a scar entirely throughout the whole thing, maybe that would make more sense. But yeah, I'm just not getting the trick here.
Wow, you have a pretty good memory. I guess that's why you've made it this far, huh?
I'm extremely confused here because, like, let's just look again. Is there a way we can pull up both faces at the same time? Junko has thick black, this Junko has thick black eyelashes and freckles and a smile and a small nose and a pointed chin. Her hair is above her eyelashes and she's got side bangs, 3 swoops. Is it literally just that this girl doesn't have freckles and the other one does? I mean, you could easily explain that with makeup. It's the same person. So are people in the game perceiving people differently than the way they're being displayed in the game to the player? Maybe. Or maybe it's just a case of bad animation and once again one person not being given proper direction as far as we need the new Junko to look different in some way. Give her like one black solid eye and one white eye, or give her a scar, give her something more noticeable, please.
So I was right. Then what you told me in the main hall when this all began.
See, there's freckles. Makoto said, I've seen her on tons of magazine covers, but I feel like that doesn't quite match up to reality. And she did say that they'd been photoshopped. Huh? Oh, you're talking about my cover photos and junk? Well, of course. Those are totally photoshopped. It literally is the freckles. Photoshopped. Yeah, it was edited to hell and back, like with computers and junk. No freckles. So they aren't real.
Sometimes a little lie is necessary to keep things moving along. Wouldn't you agree?
That is really ridiculous that we had like a 5-minute speed bump there to figure out that the real Junko doesn't have freckles.
That explains why she didn't quite seem the same, because she was a different person all along.
I'm me. And Mukuro is Mukuro.
Let's see.
She tried her
That's
best,
a localization
but there's
issue
just
there.
no way she could have passed as the ultimate fashionista. Two people can never become one as long as the walls of mind and body exist.
Yeah, that's a potential sci-fi twist to the story.
Not even if they're twins.
Terrible voice acting.
I know, it's such a cliche, right? I'm almost embarrassed to admit it.
So they are identical twins with slight differences.
So basically, Mukuro and I had your stereotypical twin relationship.
What's that?
The older sister, tough and proud. That was Mukuro. The younger sister, smart and cute. That was...
Me! Junko fucking Enoshima!
Now they have a completely different twist on the voice acting. They should have gotten to that quicker.
And together, we were the Despair Sisters, aka the Ultimate Despair!
Okay. So why would one older sister join Fenrir and be the ultimate soldier and the other not?
She's a totally different person now.
Maybe Mukuro and Mukuro was trying to take out Fenrir.
Like I said, I get bored easy as hell. I even get fucking bored with myself.
We have the crazy tongue again.
But if you're twins, why do you have different last names? Oh, that again? You have any idea how many times people ask me that shit? Maybe it's new to your dumb ass, but it bores me to tears. Answering the same questions over and over?
She's got really wild hair now.
Just make up whatever answer you want. I don't give a shit. The truth's fucking lame anyway.
Broken home.
But if she was your twin, that means you killed your own sister?
And for reasons deeper and darker than the ocean. Ha! As if.
Well, I suppose I'd better explain.
Okay, so this is just pure insanity that we're in now. She's now jumped to like a teacher mode. And so she's just gonna jump from like one attitude to another attitude. So there's a lot of range in this character that you would have to voice it correctly.
For my plan to work, someone had to be able to control the killing game from behind the scenes. The so-called mastermind had to operate Monokuma, keep an eye on everyone, things like that.
Now I have a question here. Is there 10 more minutes to this, or is there maybe an hour more to this, or 2?
But after looking at the situation, I determined it would be impossible for Mukuro to perform such duties. Because naturally, she turned out to be the letdown of the family, leaving me behind to run off and join some band of mercenaries. Such a disappointment.
Wonder if the parents were all into the despair idea also.
So, I decided to play the role of director and have her join the rest of you in your school life. I could have let her work alongside me, but she would have been useless to me that way. Besides, 15 students seemed like a solid number to start with. Of course, the fact that she was the ultimate soldier posed something of a problem. She had what I call the 3 atrocities. Atrociously rank, atrociously filthy, atrociously repulsive.
I don't get that.
It was atrociously clear just how out of touch she was with the rest of society. Meanwhile, my ultimate fashionista status has an undeniable appeal that I didn't want to go to waste.
And that's why you switched identities?
Sadly, her inability to match my personality was even greater than I'd calculated. It was a lost cause. She was nothing more than a bit player, an extra unworthy of lines.
Okay.
Being the utter disappointment that she was, anyone would have expected her to get killed off right away.
Well, this was, I suppose, a good way to show that Junko is just purely evil, in the fact that she'd be so flippantly willing to kill her sister.
Which is precisely why I killed her. To meet everyone's expectations.
That can't be your only reason, can it?
Well, no, of course not. I also did it to avoid becoming bored.
I've never been a stickler for following a plan to the letter, you know?
Yeah, now we've just got a different animation. So I bet the animators just felt the need to cram in as many animations as possible, since this is probably the only time we're going to see the real Junko.
I planned everything out and knew just what was gonna happen. That'd be so boring.
So now she's doing a cutesy voice.
I changed things just a bit and decided to use Mukuro to make a little point.
In other words, Mukuro's death was a one-sided, premeditated act of betrayal, just as I suspected.
Highlighted word.
When Mukuro was killed, she must have been as surprised as anybody else.
What? Huh? This wasn't supposed to. Why me?
So you figured
So
it out?
that is, she did say that, I guess. It's been so long, how would I remember?
Well, you're right. There's no way Mukuro could have pulled off such a convincing performance. But she did teach you all a very valuable lesson, don't you think?
How can you talk like that?
Yeah.
You sacrificed your own sister. How does that not even bother you?
What? I sacrificed her? That's what's got you so hot under the collar? Jeez, misunderstandings sure are scary. We were the ultimate despair, you know? So we never had any kind of hope or expectations.
What does that really mean?
Nope. I felt despair as long as I can remember. Like I never should have been born at all.
It'd be crazy if it turned out these two twins were actually clones in the first generation of clones, and it was because of mankind's hubris that they were born without any kind of hope. That would also potentially explain the two last names, if they were sisters or clones that were raised by different families. I don't know if we have enough time to squeeze in that kind of backstory, though.
When I was born, I cried tears of total despair. So that's why for us, it's not a big deal whether we die or kill.
Yeah, that's sociopathy, basically.
We're just
Sociopath.
those kinds of people. We can do anything. We've always been filled with despair. So when we do something, we go all the way and live without regret.
That description probably does fit Mukuro's lifestyle, too.
So you just murdered your own sister and didn't think anything of it? That's not true at all.
Now we're doing depressed Junko with mushrooms in her hair, which that probably makes a lot more sense in Japanese.
We were twins. How could I not be sad? That's why it gets me so excited.
If anything, Junko is now kind of going through each of the personalities of the other characters too. Now she's doing a Toko where she would have been doing maybe an Aoi before. There was a sci-fi movie that I think is pretty decent where a bunch of people get murdered off one by one, and at the end it gets revealed that they were actually split personalities in the mind of someone. Actually, the one part about that movie I think that's a mistake is that about 20 minutes in they revealed that's what's going on, which makes the entire rest of the movies that take place in the mind of the person with the split personality feel like it's not as important, whereas that should have been a twist I think revealed much later in the story. So we might have a scenario here where each of the 15 students, including Mukuro, may be a split personality inside of Junko's head. If that's the case, I don't know what that would prove or cause to happen.
Killing my precious sister with my own two hands. That act is filled with so much despair. You can't help but put a super in front of it.
Yeah.
It's like super, 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 super despair. No, more than that.
Super, 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 super despair.
Okay.
It just feels so good.
What the hell is wrong with you?
A good question.
And my sister too. In that moment of death, I think she must have felt that despair. After all, to be murdered by your own sister, and only as an example to someone else, she must have died feeling such excruciating hopelessness. I'm so jealous of her. Super jealous.
I knew you couldn't be just some ordinary person. You're some kind of abnormality.
I would have to agree.
Turning your own despair into some kind of fetish. Abnormality doesn't even begin to describe it.
Like, Genocide Jill is crazy for sure, but this is a whole nother level of nuts.
This does get to, I suppose, the question of motive. Like, is this whole killing game literally around the idea of making everyone else in the world feel despair too? I guess it is.
You're saying I don't compare to some lowly beast that can only kill the weak, right? So I'm hopelessly attractive, hopelessly brilliant, hopelessly athletic. I'm the hopelessly perfect ultimate human.
Is she?
No, I don't think there's anything perfect about anything you just said.
Yeah, Master's way more perfect. Because on top of everything else, he's got that noble blood.
Don't you mean had that noble blood?
Had?
What did you just say? What do you mean by that?
You still haven't figured that part out yet? Man, you guys are so slow!
Alright, well, I think what we're going to have happen here is probably another hour of story reveal. So let's overwrite there and save. But yeah, I don't know how this crazy Junko would have been able to cause an apocalypse. But she does seem like she is maybe the perfect ultimate everything. Not just fashionista, but ultimate, like, at anything they try. Which I could see why that might lead to despair if you're never challenged in anything you attempt. And that would explain her being able to hijack the airways, which might also explain her being able to perhaps run around and kill a bunch of people. Also, with Mukuro working with her, they could have easily killed a bunch of people. But obviously not everybody, because there's still somebody watching the recording, or at least you assume that's the case. Anyways, this is not the best point to end the recording, but I want to go further than 3 hours. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.